Welcome back to the channel. All right, after hours of videos and going through the top 10s of every single class, the top 10s of 2023, the top 10s of 2024, even the honorable mentions in those class, my servers rankings, everything, myself, the Illuminati, it all comes down to this for June of 2024, right? We do this semi-annually or biannually, whatever. We do it twice a year, June and December. We're down to the final 14 top champions. I'm not going to include the little video that has like how we do the rankings and everything we do every single month for the best champions in the game, monthly tier list and the amazing spreadsheet. If you haven't seen that, or if the terms I'm using are confusing you, go watch one of the other videos from this month. They've been phenomenal. There's a whole playlist linked on my channel on the homepage and in the description, and it'll help you out really, really well. And I think it's going to be really entertaining as well too. So let's jump into this now. As you know, the scoring system is incredibly tight, especially when you get to this level. So we essentially have a bunch of ties, right? We have ties at a possible score of 37. No one in the game has a 38, okay? That is the most possible points you could get. There are 4 ties at 36, and there are 7 ties at 35. They are literally tied. And I am going to do a tiebreaker based on how much do I enjoy playing them? So for this, the number 14 champion is Dr. Doom. I want to start off by saying right now, all of these champions are phenomenal. This game has over 300 champions. There's champions who weren't even named in the top 10s in their class who are fantastic. We have like Allison Edits, just like soloing stuff with Invisible Women and Ronan. Ronan's actually a very good champion, right? And Invisible Woman can do things, but that's the kind of game this is, where if you know how to play really, really well and you put in the time and you're high skilled like she is, you're going to do phenomenal things. And that's why we always say, rank up the champions you enjoy because you're gonna know how to use them. All right, let's do this now. Dr. Doom. You know, this is a weird one where it's like the better I've gotten at the game, the less I actually like Doom. I think it also coincides though with Mystic has really grown a lot. Right? Back in Doomsday, you wanted Nullified. You wanted those like Power Drain or Steel. I can't remember which of the ones it is. You would love like Immunity or 2. Then you have like add-on crit resistance. And then you just have Doom's ultimate ability to completely do what was called the Doom loop, right? You got to the special 3. Along the way, you could sometimes make it so the opponent never even threw a bar of power. And then once you get the special 3, it was over. Like literally the fight was over, and Kabam kept putting out ways to try to like kind of stop him. You could tell there was like a node or a defender or whatever. And Doom's kit, basically his ability set was so well protected. There were so many layers. Like it was almost like, you know, protecting a vault in a bank. And there were so many layers. We're like, well, if the thief gets through this one, at least there's 18 more layers of protection. And that's how Doom has felt for so long. The only reason Doom is not literally number 1 is because, you know, Fury and Hercules exist and other champions, but the game has grown considerably. Also, he's not available as a 7. I think if he was available as a 7, we'd be rating him as a 7-star rank 3, and that's just not what's in the game right now. The other thing that's happened, and we talked about this at length in the Mystic video, is Battlegrounds is now a thing. Doom's big Fury is off of his, you know, you get to that special 3 and you get to the special 2 and you do that big loop, right? And so now it takes time. My sense is if Doom had been made in the time of Battlegrounds, there would have been a way to speed up that loop. Like it's just the way he's designed. You can tell he was designed to be dominant in this game and to have defenders and nodes and things like that, not be able to mess with what he's doing. He's a lot of fun to play for that reason. So many war players absolutely love playing him because he's so tanky. Even if you make a mistake with his crit resistance and the whole thing, he's probably going to live. I enjoyed using him in war for that very, very reason. And then the other thing with Battlegrounds is we're now facing him a lot, right? Like when Battlegrounds first came into the game, he was a very common dual threat champion. But then we all kind of started learning his evades, which were tricky and still mess me up from time to time. And then the Science class also got things like Sunder, Titania, Silk, Hulk, these sorts of champions. Even Photon has Sunder where they can handle him. So it's not that Doom is no longer good. He's phenomenal. He's great. He's in the top 14 champions in the game. It's just the game around him has grown so much, and there's a variety of other circumstances that have decreased his value as far as I and the Illuminati are concerned. All right, let's move on to the next champion who's got 35 points. All right, now it's time for the big boy Kingpin, right? Like, what a powerhouse of a champion. The buff was phenomenal, and I think it even took us time to kind of understand how great he was. I had, fortunately for me, on like a bit of like a gamble, took him up, I believe, before his buff even went live, then played and was like, I think we might have the new best skill champion, especially when you're able to synergize him with the synergy partners who keep getting buffed and keep getting better. And they also don't tend to be out at 7-star. So I just wonder how that's all going to work, how that's going to play out in this game. If he doesn't come as a 7-star, I do think we're going to see him start to move down. But that's only because I think we're going to start seeing more and more 7-star rank 3s. And it does get harder to punch up. We're not seeing as much in Battlegrounds for that very reason, right? The damage output. And then also the mutant class. Like when we talked about this in the mutant video, or at least I noticed it when I was looking at the dates on them. There was like years with very few mutants. And so it made a lot of sense that they started falling off in a way, right? Because they weren't keeping up. They weren't pushing the edge of the metas and those sorts of things. And so the relationship between skill and mutant skill really started to dominate that in a lot of ways. And mutant wasn't necessarily keeping up with tech either. So champions like this were just kind of roaming free. Well, now in a mode like Battlegrounds, we're seeing more mutant defenders or attackers who can handle Kingpin well. So Kingpin's even losing a little bit of his dual threat prowess that he had and reputation there. I want to make this clear, though. This is like we're splitting hairs here on ways to differentiate between champions when we're in the top 14, 15 in a game with this many champions that's this complex and big. So I'm not putting him down. If he does come out as a 7-star, he will shoot right back up and be the best champion that's available as a 7-star. Yes, I think probably over Crossbones, but he's not available right now, he being Kingpin, and therefore we have him tied right here with 35 total points for tied for 8th best champion in the game. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, another champion that's not out as a 7-star, and another one that I think a lot of us wonder, is she ever coming, or is it just going to be a long time? I'd be shocked if we see her anytime soon, right? But you never know. We saw Corvus, and I think that was like the first one where I was, oh, okay, they're doing a thing here, right? Like Juggernaut, I don't think anyone realized how good he was yet. Domino shocked me, but that's more just because of the way she interacts in the game. Tigra just shut things down. She's similar to Doom in this one way, in that you can tell that the defenders and nodes and things like this try to shut her off. They're a little more cute about it than they are blunt force with Doom. And then she just gets around. Players who play her are so skilled and they know their spacing so well, and they are able to kind of utilize, let's call it the elasticity of Tigra's kit more than it being protected the way Doom's feels. And they can still have enough damage because her burst damage is so high that they end up winning. They end up winning fights and things where they probably weren't designed to, or there was hope that they would not be able to. She's a fantastic, phenomenal champion. You get both of her senses going, and she just is lighting the world on fire. Unblockable special too. She has lost a lot of her defensive prowess as well. Similar to Doom, where, you know, people used to really struggle with her specials, especially if they're going like unblockable or something like that. But outside of her pushing people into a corner, for the most part, because we've seen her so much, we've learned her special dexes. I don't think she's falling down per se, especially because she is very unique in a class that is having more and more unique champions come out in Mystic, right? We're getting away from just like the Nullify and the Power Steel and these sorts of things. And so I think she's very much holding on in a weird way. Like if I had to split the hair and really make a prediction on this, I think she's more likely to have retained her top 15 spot than the last two champions we mentioned, should none of them come out as 7-stars. So in December, I think she is more likely to still be rated this highly than Doom or Kingpin. Not that I'm expecting them to necessarily fall off, but between the three of them and the fact that they all have that in common, I think Tiger is the one that is the most uniquely suited and is still asked for and seems to be keeping up with the toughest, newest defenders in the game. All right, let's go and move on to the next one. Zori, man, my boy DLL, Daddy Longlegs, longtime friend of mine, now champion designer at Kabam, came in and just, I think he stamped it. Like we knew, we're like, this champion is so insanely relevant. Like you can very much tell that DLL plays the game and plays it at an extremely high tier. This champion is extremely well made. The loop and the flow is great, but it doesn't have all of those protections. Those of you who've tried to play Absorbing Man in certain matchups know It is not easy. And a lot of people say, like, I don't even want him in my Battlegrounds deck because I don't want to be worried about the light punish and the heavy punish and all these things. And if I'm not just getting charged up because of the armor breaks or due to the immunities, then I'm just not enjoying it because it's not that fast. And I want it to be fast. And I think that's a really great sign. It's a really good sign that there's weaknesses built in, that he's very strong where he's supposed to be, that he has great versatility because, pretty problematic defender if you don't have a good answer or you're not prepared to be knocking him down and you know how to do that sort of thing. You don't want him refining, right? And then offensively, you can utilize those bits, those pre-fights, those resistances, and those immunities to take a variety of champions that aren't just your cosmic champions like Terrax or Hulkling or something like that. Now, because of the way the Mystic class is, and I have enough 7 stars high enough ranked, Absorber Man's often not finding his way into my deck. And I don't know with him. He's a champion that I do feel that depending on how the game progresses, I could also see not being in this top 15 and a lot when we do this again in December. And much of that is just going to do with, I don't think he's coming as a 7-star soon. I do think we will eventually see him. I don't think that's happening before December. I would love it if it did. And I think he's going to have trouble punching up against those 7-star rank 3s in Battlegrounds. And then in questing and things like that, I think when we're incentivized and asked to bring our 7-star champions, I think we're going to probably start reaching for them unless Absorbing Man is just for sure the right answer, because he was very good in Necropolis. So it's clear the latest, biggest, everest content, he was still phenomenal for it. He's a really interesting case study because he just hasn't been in the game nearly as long as those other champions that we just covered. And he is incredibly unique. We talked about Mystic has become, I think, one of the most difficult to give a definition of what a Mystic is supposed to be in 2022, 23, and 24 in MCoC. I absolutely love Absorbing Man. If you're coming up in this game, he's got so much versatility, an excellent champion to rank and to ascend. Keep your eye on Absorbing Man. All right, let's move on to the next one. Shuri is amazing, and you want to answer this. And one of the really cool things about doing the top 30 after having done most of the top 10, now I had to kind of push them together because of recording a lot of these before that vacation, and having them come out while I was on vacation. But fortunately, tech did come out, and I want to address something that I saw being a common question, and I really appreciate it. You guys know, I don't mind being disagreed with. In fact, if anything, it's good, and I learn. But it's how we phrase things to each other, and you can tell someone's just trying to come in and be like, "Hey, you're an idiot," and other people are like, "Hey, I think I disagree, and here's why." And here's what I saw a couple times, more than once. So let's put it that way, and more than a couple actually, is people saying, one, if a tech champion does not have power control or manipulate power in some way, I kind of don't want them. And I can't tell you you're wrong. That's just what you enjoy, right? But I want to address that. And two, Shuri gets shut down if the defender is shock immune. And again, you're not wrong. And I want to explain why I still value her so much, despite those two things. One is, I can't make you like something, right? If you just don't like her, that's fine. And if you're like, no, I want all my techs to have power control, tech is good enough, or you can find them. And you're going to probably never really miss Shuri. But what it is about her is her versatility is so wide and so relevant. You think about how, her specials, I believe it's her specials can't be evaded. It's not just her ability accuracy and things like that that make her great for Domino. It's that, at least when it comes to your specials, you don't need to worry about Domino evading. Think about how many times you survive through the lucky, or Domino goes lucky, and then you go to throw your special because, you're like, oh, okay, cool, we finally got to my special, I'm going to throw it, and then Domino evades that, and you're like, great, okay. She can block unblockable specials when you have her awakened, and it's not just she can block unblockables versus cosmics, it's she blocks unblockables. She has the non-contact attacks that allow you to get around damage back mechanics that require you to make contact. That's something we frequently see in the skill class. All of these things add up to a champion that, yeah, I get it, is she's not the archetype and going to take out all your mutants. She's obviously not. She does energy damage, right? But she's good enough in some very meta, against some very meta defenders in this mutant class. And then also can take a bunch of fights outside of it that have defensive problems presented to you, and to be able to take them with Shuri, one champion, who can then maybe take them on another lane or another fight on that lane in a quest or in war or in like Necropolis, makes her outrageously valuable when her damage is also very, very good. And it's only very, very good in short fights. In long fights, her damage is phenomenal. I really enjoyed using Kate in Necropolis, but I always brought along Shuri. And a lot of the fights people use to do Kate with, I actually preferred using Shuri because she simplified them for me. She's fantastic. I don't think I've now convinced those of you that you should go with her, but I did want to at least present why someone like myself, when I'm giving rank up advice, very, very much values the versatility of Shuri and what she will allow a summoner to do in a single rank up in a single champion. She's phenomenal in my opinion. The only reason why I haven't already taken her to rank 3 is I just haven't had that many. And you'll see that I'm doing an account tour, kind of like a July 4th prep video and an account tour. But I also happen to just love a lot of champions in the tech class. I do really like Shuri though. So let's keep that in mind. All right, let's go ahead and move on. There's only 2 champions left in this tier. My boy DLL again. I feel like we're like at the Oscars, right? And my good friend like was the director and producer for the movie that's up for movie of the year and everything, right? Just phenomenal. And you know, continuing the theme is the relevancy of these champions. And their loops aren't protected. They can be shut down. Defenders can stop them. They're not dominating, but they have a nice loop that if you play them well, you're rewarded. And they have things in their kit, and again, like Photon here, where she can block non-contact attacks. Ironically, and I didn't plan it this way, she's actually one of my favorite counters for Shuri. Literally, because Shuri has the non-contact attacks, Photon goes in, can still parry them, damage Shuri like it's nothing. Additionally, Photon's medium hits, right, her medium attacks can't miss. Then when she gets into her pure light, she just in general can't miss. So she's got all these really great nuggets of utility. You're ranking her up hopefully to place her on defense, but then you have this really cool champion you can still use in questing. Her damage is very respectable. In certain matchups, it's even above respectable. And she's got that carryover mechanic, right? Like the persistent charges. So once you get her going, you're pretty good for the next fight as well. I absolutely love her. I absolutely love her. You know, you spec into inequity, you're landing all these debuffs, so that's making you more and more tanky. She works well with a couple of different relics in the science class. Like, she doesn't demand that you give her the Hulk relic. Like, you know, the Hulk relic's so good. So she opens that up for you as well, where you can rank up a science champion and be like, oh, okay, cool. I can place her with the Captain America relic too, and she'll do great with it. She's just a phenomenal, very versatile, very relevant champion in this game. And she's new, and she has dual threat qualities in Battleground. She's usable in War. I've shown both of these things. And, you know, I talk about this video all the time, where I'm going to get this video where it's basically titled, like, the perfect champion for MCoC. I think she's literally it. She's, like, literally it. I love her. She's fantastic. I know a lot of you love her as well, too. Let's move on to what, for me, is the #1 champion in this tier. All right, if this was just my rankings and like only my rankings without all the breadth of knowledge and experience of the MCoC Illuminati and like how I'm playing the game, I would potentially have her as the #1 champion. I'm not kidding. And I don't think she's broken in the way Hercules and these other champions are. She's not broken like Fury and all of that. So I could never argue that point, and I never would. It'd be disingenuous. But if you want someone that is incredibly relevant and can go outside of their class wheel, and is also very unique in their class while simultaneously countering a problem that we frequently see, multiple problems, in fact, and that problem would be power gain, ability power rate, and the ability to, I've done so many America Chavez videos. I will, if I think I have, I don't know, but I've got like hours of footage, and I will just sit down one day and I will just record them all and talk over the fights, because there's so many things you can do with her. Like if I did an essentials video with her, which is where I just break down everything in a champion, it would be hours. Just in this recent Battlegrounds meta, I was using her to take out Guardians, right? And I could tell, at least I felt strongly, that my opponent was like, this guy's, what's he gonna do? He's not gonna be able to throw specials. Well, there's like tips and tricks with her where if you finish off your heavy, just like we face when we're on defense, her special 2 is unblockable, and so you can use that. Her heavy stun is not a debuff; it's a passive. So you can reverse and control the ability power rate of the defender without having to land a debuff. So like skill champions, right, or nodes that are struggling these things, she gets around. She helps you handle. There's just so many things like that in her kit. Like she doesn't get buffed. So yeah, like if you can't take her on buffed up, right? But we don't see that much anymore. That used to be a thing. That used to be very much a thing a few years back. It was like, well, they can take buffed up. It's like, oh, great. And I don't hear anyone saying that anymore just because the game's evolved. She's just absolutely fantastic. Everything lives like within her kit. And so as a result, I think she's harder to mess with. She won't always be like the best option. You got to play her well. Like I actually prefer her. She is my favorite Hulkling counter, despite definitely a champion I also love in Kushala. I think being more targeted towards Hulkling. Destroyer being much more targeted towards Hulkling. But I've learned to play her, and I play her so much, and I took the Hulkling fight so much. And, you know, before when I was in tier 1 with for Loki and SSX, I used to be like, well, you know, send him with the Kate synergy for America Chavez. And I got to the point where I was like, I don't need it, guys. Like, I don't need it. I don't need it for Hulkling. Like, watch. And then finally, like, okay, he doesn't need it. But Kate's awesome, so send her anyway. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out their synergy. It is a great synergy for them. I don't know. I'd like to think DL knew what he was doing there with America and Kate going out there and dominating the multiverse together there. But I genuinely feel that she is in the conversation for the most relevant and best rank ups for any summoner that's playing MCoC as we sit in June. There we are. I realize I probably just talked about America Chavez for 10 minutes, but you know what? She's worth it. Let's move on. That is the final champion in this massive tie at 35 points. Let's move on to the 1, 2, 3, 4 champions tied at 36. Okay, I think it's time for me to admit it, and I have a confession when it comes to Nick Fury, because I think it was a year ago I demoted him quite large, and I was kind of predicting the downfall of him, and I was wrong. I get some wrong. I get a lot right, though, and I like to celebrate those, but I'm a big boy, and I'll admit when I was wrong. And yeah, you know, Danny just totally destroys Nick Fury, right? Like, I've shown that to you millions of times, and so I think it was like Forgotten and Andrew the Rough, and so many other players as well. Like Bitter Steel, tons and tons and tons. I'm sure I'm forgetting people, and I don't mean to be. Toad is very good. Penny's very good. So there's answers to him, like in Battlegrounds, things like that. But if you need a champion and you just need to win the fight, you like don't care how much health you come out with, whatever. I think I might pick Nick Fury even over Hercules, as crazy as that sounds. But the damage source, he can do the bleeds. He doesn't need to do the bleeds. And so I'm sure some of you are wondering, like, you sound like you really like him. You just can't stand, because I recall on my channel, and I pulled him, and I'm like, I'm really going to learn how to play this guy. I'm really going to learn. I see how powerful he is. I want to learn. And I was trying to learn, and I was like getting the internal bleeds and all this stuff. And then people that I trusted, who are friends of mine, and they're like, why are you doing that? And I was like, well, you know, the kit, and I'm trying to really accentuate the bleeds. And they're like, dude, stop doing that. Just spec into deep wounds and end your combos on light. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, what? That's ridiculous. Like, this guy's got this great kit, and there's all these abilities. He can stop evade and miss, and the tactical charges, and he's got a really great synergy that's going to help you out with that. And like, I was really having fun with this, but I was wondering why I wasn't getting the results everyone else was getting. And they're like, yeah. No, just in combos and light. And then like I started getting sent to war fights, and it was like, okay, listen, just don't die. And, you know, I started noticing like that was often being done with other players too. It wasn't me, where it was like, okay, boost big, throw on recoil, throw on deep wound, and just don't die. You can technically die once, just don't die twice. And it's not fun for me. Like, I just did not enjoy that at all. And I felt like, you know, defenders and nodes and things were coming out to try to counter it. And it's not necessarily Nick Fury's fault, but it felt like it created an unfun experience. That all being said, this is about rank up advice. We're evaluating all these champions on like ranking them up. How are they being used, where they're being used, how powerful they are, how relevant they are. cannot deny that this guy really is. And in some really bizarre, weird way, he's actually more highly rated than Kingpin and Doom and Tigra. He's holding on in a lot of ways because of his Battlegrounds dual threat purpose, right? Even in this last nuke meta that like is ending tomorrow as I'm recording this, because he has 2 lives and you had to kill them both, he still maintained value. People know how to fight him. They've got answers in their deck, but it's just, I don't know, whatever. I could go on it just like all the way I just talked about how much I love America Chavez and how great she is. I could go on and on about my irritations and frustrations with Nick Fury investing in the game. I think a lot of that's due to now having to fight him and all the bugs that seem to come out because of him, or at least he's associated with. At least I like the character from the movies. Let's move on. The next one tied with the 36 points is Scorpion, right? Great in war, still pretty good in Battlegrounds. I think falling off a little bit due to, one, the science class is remarkable, particularly in Battlegrounds, right? And then he's not available as a 7-star. And so and he's not a nuke. He never was a nuke, even when he was like the highest rated. Like he was good for Rintra and things like that. But then again, we had more and more science champions come out who just started dominating things like Silk and things like that. We talked about this a lot when we did the science video. He has the shifting immunities that you can pick on your own and the damage sources as a result. So that is worth an absolute ton right there. Like that alone is the big deal. Gets up, they're not technically power stings, but they are stings of sorts. So the ability to do damage like that when you don't even need to get to a bar of power yourself is incredibly powerful. It's not the same as having power gain. We talk about that a lot in this channel, but it ends up serving a similar purpose in that you don't need to get to a bar of power, right? You can just land your power stings and parry medium over and over. And then if you pair them up with the Venom synergy, you're going to get massive furies, and that are, I believe, limitless. It just probably stops at 99. He's a phenomenal, fantastic champion. I wonder if we ever see him as a 7-star. I hope we do, because I really did have a lot of fun and enjoyed playing my Scorpion. He was one of my early ascensions and had an absolute blast with him. All right, let's move on to this, I guess the third champion tied at 36 points. Onslaught. The first champion that made me think, I need to put out a video reminding the community that a champion could get nerfed, right? We hadn't really seen it. To the best of my recollection, just Absorbing Man as a defender is the only one I can think of off the top of my head. There might be another one, but I don't think we've seen a true offensive nerf. And it didn't happen with Onslaught either. And one of the things I did kind of get wrong was he's kind of tough to play. I know a lot of you had told me that, especially in that video. You're like, look, you obviously haven't played him a ton. And when you try to use him outside of his ideal matchups, he can be a little bit tough. Now, his heavy reach, his animations and things like that really mitigate that. And I know from a lot of people who have their 7-stars, they're like, it's different than the 6. I think it's due to the challenge rating and probably the tankiness and things like that, right? To sit there and block bait and then land your heavy. I'm very much looking forward to ranking my 7-star up. I got incredibly lucky and pulled him 2 out of, I think, 3 Titan crystals recently. So I will be taking mine up very soon. I do enjoy playing him. He just gets around a lot of the skill defensive threats that are also on various nodes, right? Like ebb and flows and things like that, where a champion becomes debuff immune. He can get around those relatively well. Not as simply as like Negus on a Teenage Warhead, but I really like that maybe Onslaught isn't as insanely versatile as she is, but he's more powerful in his places where he's supposed to be very good. And then, of course, he's a fantastic defender. His AI is just the best, right? Like, it's a phenomenal AI. All the jokes I thought of to make would not be appropriate. So I really love Onslaught because he's out as a 7-star. I really don't think he's moving down anytime soon. When he came out, soon thereafter, we made him the #1 mutant champion. And I just have a feeling that's not going to change anytime soon. Love Onslaught. I actually do like Onslaught in a champion I want to play more and get better at, because I do think he is a lot of fun to play and an appropriate level of challenge. And if you get the challenge right, I think you're very much rewarded with great results. All right, let's get to what for me is the #1 champion out of this lot, tied at 36 points. All right, it's none other than Kate Bishop. And I know some of you are like, how is she not higher? And I'll explain to you, because I actually saw it myself too when we did this, because I never look at the rankings from this standpoint of like who is the highest amongst all the champions. Like we'll look at the tier list and I'll be like, okay, this one's in this tier. Does it make sense with this science champion? Okay, yeah, they look about right. And we'll look at their scores relative to each other in their classes. But just the way the spreadsheet's set up and things like that, I never look at the total scores amongst all the classes. This is the first time I've done it since we've done the massive revamp and the whole new spreadsheet from the Spreadsheet Wizards. And I was surprised to not see Kate in the top. And the reason why she's not is due to her ease of use score, right? If you have watched the video, you know that the theoretical or the practical cap is actually 35 points. There's a couple of ways champions can go above and beyond because we wanted to give champions like Wong, give them a way to show like they are so good in long form, right? But we also didn't want to necessarily punish champions who weren't good in it. It really worked out great. Spreadsheet Wizards are geniuses. And Kate has a 1 out of 3 there. Now, I know some of you are like, you're kidding, right, Kate? I think if you used her in Necropolis and you were soloing a lot of fights, you know that she, in my opinion, she is not a 3 out of 3 ease of use. She is not easy to play. You may have gotten very good with her, but you were very skilled, right? It's like people who spend a lot of time getting great with Tigra doesn't mean that Tigra became easy to play. It meant that you spent a lot of time and are probably a very good player and got great at mastering a difficult champion. And that was my experience with Kate. Now, we could maybe move her to a 2, and that actually would push her up to the next level because it's only 1 point separating these champions. But I just can't see moving her to a 3 out of 3. When you're starting to try to control those arrows and move them along while also keeping the debuffs up, while also making sure you consistently get your perfect release. Like I know, even in some of my videos, I talked about that openly about, hey, look, I'm almost not worried about keeping my debuffs up because I just want to get my perfect releases going. Then once I consistently get those going and I get those bonuses, then I'll start moving my arrows and then I'll start being worried about my debuffs and things like that, right? I did that in some of my solo videos. That's why some of my solos were like, I don't remember off the top of my head, they were like 8 minutes, while some people put out and theirs was like only 6. She's not that easy to use. Now, that being said, I put out a video very early on in my Kate exploration, and it was a Battlegrounds video. And it was like, guys, I'm just literally using the SP1 over and over. Like, this is almost mind-blowing stuff. And it felt like I was playing her well at the time. And it's kind of like that experience I'm talking about where I think I had just gotten better with her. I had gotten comfortable with the perfect release mechanic. I was controlling it. I was keeping the opponent in the corner. Like, there are a lot of asks. I think it's just we as players have gotten a lot better at this game. She's fantastic. She's phenomenal. Just so many amazing things to say about her. We talked about her at length in the top 10 skill video. I think we're not going to see her for 7s as a long time. Like I did the tweet on June 5th of last year. I tweeted out, and I probably should have made a video, but I don't think it would have made a difference because I think Shang-Chi was so popular at the time and Kate was still so new. But I definitely said, guys, I love Shang, but I've been playing Kate and we got to go with Kate. And from now on, throughout the rest of history, June 5th will be known as We Could Have Had Kate Day. And I will always mark that on Twitter. So join me on Twitter and celebrating We Could Have Had Kate Day. I love her. I love her. Hopefully one day we get her to 7-star. She's my final champion, tied in this massive for 4th here at 36 points. Now let's move on to the 3 final champions tied at 37 points. Yep, I'm doing it. I'm making it hurt. It's my video. I can do what I want. They're tied, okay? They really are. Like, yeah, you see this spreadsheet every month and you see it. The guy's amazing everywhere. I get it. I know it. I think the only place where he doesn't have a perfect score, I think, is Battlegrounds. And that's just because he's not as fast these days as players are often going. But the fact of the matter is, he's really good in Battlegrounds, and you can trap your opponent by placing him on defense. And if they don't have someone who's going to get rid of his immortality and handle that in some way, he's going to at least stall for you too. Plus, I don't think anyone has saved the community as many items as this champion. Like, I am positive of it. I just wonder, like, how many champions in the game do you need to start to add up to get even close to the amount of items Hercules has saved us? If you want to play him and you want to be brain dead, like someone commented, and thank you for the comment, and I'm sorry I don't remember your name at the moment. on the cosmic list that they'll like be watching movies and be playing Hercules. And I get it. I know. That's why I use them in AQ, because I hate AQ. And if for no other reason than making AQ like not make me hate myself for playing this game, Hercules deserves my thanks, right? And so I guess in some ways I should be sorry they don't have number one, but it's just I covered him early. I got him early. He's a cheat code. He's essentially a cheat code. But all of that being said, if you really want to focus on what you're doing with him, you can get even better results than if you're not paying attention. I know, shocking, but it is true. You can get really great results with him from intentionally playing him and paying attention. He has a really nice kit, a lot of abilities and things like that. It's not face rolling. Additionally, the only reason why he's tied is because of, like I said, with Battlegrounds. You know, again, he was before Battlegrounds came out. Really interesting, right? When you think about some of these champions I've talked about being broken or their kits being so well protected, they're all before Battlegrounds came out. I wonder what they would have looked like when if Battlegrounds had been a thing. And because Battlegrounds is important, and that goes into part of what we're advising on, right? It is a great way of getting resources in this game, of getting rank up resources, of getting better at this game, spending time in this game. It ends up here. And if I'm giving out rank up advice, yes. If someone says, should I rank up Hercules? I'm like, yeah, of course. But if they say, should I rank up Hercules or one of these other options, I genuinely mean it when I say, like, I don't know. Let me ask you a few questions. Let me know what you're most interested in this game. And that's how you end up tied. Let's go ahead and check out the other two. It's Hulkling. I don't think Hulkling is broken like Hercules is. The kit does not feel nearly as protected. It doesn't seem as like, kind of like, screw you. I don't know how else to put it. Like, you're not going to mess with these things. But Hulkling's kit is so phenomenally well put together. Now, some of you might be like, dude, he's broken. You just really like him. And that's fine. Maybe I'm biased. But I don't think so. I think part of it, too, is I got Hulkling so early and I played him so much. As a result, I knew his moveset. And so that's why, like, when America Chavez was getting her buff, I asked for her to have the Pierce added on to one of the things that she can minimize and potentially reverse. And Kabam, who was doing the buffs, I guess thought it was a good idea, and they went with it, which was awesome. I thought that was really, really cool. But the fact of the matter was, I was asking for it in case we started seeing Pierce in more places. I wasn't asking for it because I thought she needed it to beat up Hulkling, because I knew his moveset. He is a tricky defender, right? But he's not impossible. And America Chavez clearly isn't designed to take him. She doesn't get rid of his indestructible or anything like that. And I really like defenders like that. That's why I love Kindred so much. It's because if you play really well against them, you can have success. Of course, you'll have more success if you play against them with a true hard counter that really handles their abilities. But Hulkling's defensive kit is phenomenal, amazing, and I enjoy fighting him. Because it can go wrong. There is genuine threat. But if I play well, I can take him out. And then offensively, I love that he has a cosmic ability, right, with the power gain, but he doesn't have it via power gain buff. Like a really, really cool concept on how do I take something that's traditional with some of the most powerful cosmic champions in the game, and then how do I do it in an untraditional way? And then you add on Pierce, which really apparently adds even more than I realized. I thought it was just hits into the block, but apparently it's helping out with a lot of things on top of that as well. And then he can go unblockable if you skill your way into it. You can't just mash things around and go unblockable and destroy. Like, you can get mediocre to good results, but if you play Hulkling well, you're going to get phenomenal results. And that's been a constant theme in all of these for me, is if you play this champion well, you're going to get great results. And Hulkling is definitely designed to do that. It helps for me, a player like me, where if you make a mistake, he might heal it back up for you, of course, as well. I love him. I hope we get to see him as a 7-star one day. That's just something I'm thinking about more and more and more these days, because I truly just enjoy playing the character and just bashing stuff. And this is exactly who I was referring to. If someone came to me and said, and this happens all the time, right? This is the most common question we get asked as YouTubers for this game is, hey, I can rank up a cosmic champion. Should I rank up Hercules or Hulkling? I'm going to ask, well, what do you enjoy? If you're enjoying Battlegrounds, if you're enjoying paying a lot of attention to what you're doing, if you're enjoying war and those sorts of things, go with Hulkling. If you want to save items on AQ and just kind of dominate some stuff, maybe do incursion stuff, go with Hercules. All right, let's get to, for me, the number one champion in the game. It's Titania. It's got to be Titania. It's been an amazing journey with her. Yeah, she's tied. She is absolutely tied with her, Herc and Hulkling. She definitely is, right? So this is just my personal preference. And I think part of that is due to her being a 7-star. With Hulkling, we don't know. And Herc, I doubt it. Come on. But Titania is available as a 7-star, which means you can pull her. You eventually probably will over time, and you can invest in her and have a very long time horizon. And so if someone said, hey, should I rank up Herc, Hulkling, or Titania? I would almost definitely go with Titania because I know you're going to get prolonged bang for your buck with your rank up resources, assuming you're talking about the 7-star. A champion that can go unblockable, indestructible, and unstoppable passively all at the same time and on a relatively short cooldown that you can make shorter, who places a suppression debuff that is lowering the combat power rate of a champion, making it so that you can get to your SP3 before they ever have a chance to throw a special. You got to play well. That's been a constant theme. None of these champions are face roll champions. And then you get to that special 3, and even if the defender ignores your intimidate, which yes, is happening more and more these days, it feels like it to me anyway, you're likely going to be indestructible anyways. So they throw their special 3, and yeah, it costs you a little bit of time in Battlegrounds, but you come out of it unscathed, and you've got all of those debuffs on. The way she's built, despite not handling evade or unstoppable or all these things, she helps you mitigate those threats. She can't do everything. No champion in this game is a must-have anymore. No champion covers everything like we used to want 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. She's really, really close. She's a science champion that places debuffs. Yeah, she's better off when her debuffs are stay, but she's getting her furies regardless of whether they stay or not, and that's the large source of her damage. She's phenomenal. She's amazing, and if you play her well, you can achieve the most incredible results. I will. This has inspired me. When I get home from my vacation, I'm going to get out I'm going to start working on the America Chavez very long video and the Titania very long video. Both of them will probably be called like the insanity of and these champions. As usual, let me know what you think we got right. Let me know what you think we got wrong. Remember, the point total difference between all these champions was at most 2. They're incredibly, incredibly tight. It's the top 14 champions in the whole game. A lot of us have come down to who do you enjoy, what modes are you playing, and what do you enjoy about this game. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for doing this with me in June. We will make sure we definitely do it in December. And keep an eye on the channel as I get you completely prepared for all of your rank up decisions that I know you'll be facing after July 4th. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.